Advocacy and mental health alert. Maybe I wonder if there's room to put alert in there. I'm not going to mess with it anymore. Hey, Gideon. Hey, Judy. Thanks for coming back. I'm sharing it out. Got to do all of that crap again. I keep sending it to my sister. She's on the auto send. Her son's got her phone. If it's on, I bet he's like, what are you doing? I'm good. How are you? We're not doing boxes today. We have a podcast going. Tabby, thank you. Still sharing it out. Whoops. Don't forget to make sure that you have the notifications set. If you've ever reset and you did not reset those notifications back to all, you won't get notified. And a lot of people aren't getting notified when I'm coming on, or even when I'm on, they're not showing that I'm on. So you have to be sure to reset those notifications to all. Every time you do it, every time you reset. I just said that I'm not taking boxes. You guys are going to get blocked when Tina gets in here. You're welcome to stay in the chat. There's Barbara. She'll do it too. Ow! I got that one spot on my neck that's quite painful. Pin the goal. Okay. Can we? No, I don't want to pin the goal. I want to pin this. About a piece of skin. Donna Marshall, waiting for everybody to come back in. No, are you busy, Tina? We were waiting for everybody. Yeah, I had to reset. I got major restrictions. I got a 10-minute and a whole live restriction, one for suicide and self-harm and one for mental health. Yep. I'm playing the podcast. So I put advocacy and mental health. Wonder if is there room to put triggers, advocacy and mental health triggers? Because you have to take that off. Let me redo that. Advocacy. Of course, they don't want that either. / mental health. I want all the space I can get. Where is the /? There it is. Somebody's here. Am I expecting somebody? Hang on a minute. You're fine. Let me see who's here. I may have to go. I don't know who it is. Just a minute. Get ready to call 911 just in case. Good morning, Winky. Barbara, do you feel like coming up? I hear kids too. Who is it? Oh, it's a Walmart order. Okay. I better get the dog. Hang on. Quick picture. Thank you, Linda. Just in time, I used the last coffee pod this morning. We got the coffee. Thank you all for running the stickers. I appreciate you so much. Okay, hey Jazzy. Let's get this back down to here, over here. And then mental health and advocacy triggers. Advocacy and mental health triggers. Is that going to work, you think? Can you put 2 stickers? Do you have to do a board, like warning? Because I'm definitely going to keep playing it. It would be nice not to get in trouble for it, but, you know. How many times will we have to reset? We'll see. Wonder, no, that'd be over the face. Would it be better over here? No. Let's put it right above my head. Okay. Thank you for the heart puffs. Thank you so much. That helps get us out. All of the Go Populars get us out. They push us with Populars. They push us with the 10K. They want to see in the first 10 minutes, if you can get to 10K, if you can get the shares going. We've got 276 shares right now. I need to go over here and get tappers going and everything situated again. Okay, I'm going to get Eddie sharing here. Repost. See the arrow there, 276? We want to get that back up. And then you do that by reposting and holding the screen and sending it to that whole list of people. We need to share. And I really hate that I had to reset, but we got disconnected. If you're just coming in, we are reset because the first live got restricted, so we just started over. Thank you all. That's sending us out. All those stacks of Populars and little yummies. We need 10 new fans, so we've dropped that. Let's see. Thank you, Angie, title gifter of the roses. Judy's out there sharing. We're up to 300 shares. It says we do have a green. We've had 26 total views, so that's working faster because we only had like 11 within 10 minutes last live. So yes, this is sending it out. Let's keep it going. The more it gets sent out, the less trouble we get in too. The more, for lack of a better word, the more gifts, the more shares, all of the talking, anything like that, the more we can get, sadly, the less they will restrict us. And thank you all. Everything you do, I just love you. Love you to pieces. Let me get that back going. Let's see, I shared all of Eddie's. Oh, the tapper. Oh, no, you can't do heart me's again. You can only do that one time a day, right? All day, not each live. Yeah. And I have to get Tickfinity going because I can't hear anything. Okay, I'm sorry if I'm missing your comments. Hang on just a minute. Okay, thank you for the ice creams. All right. Yeah, if you're popular, they don't pick on you. Hey, God's property, don't attack from the Caribbean or Caribbean islands. However, I'll say it both ways for all of the people that do it different. Hey, ChatGPT, are you still in here? We had to reset because we got, hey, Aunt Ava, I see you in here. Donna Marshall, Tracy Lynn, there's Unicorn. Let me see. Nope, don't have a bio. Tiff, been praying for your mother. I told everybody else that your mother's in need of prayers. Then we have Aunt Ava, and then Christina, and Back Porch Confessions, Judy, Tabby, Eddie, Angie, Autism Mom. We're doing the second episode. We're going to pick back up on the second episode of the podcast, Time of Death by Beth Braden. Thank you for the roses. Thank you for the shares. We're back up to 400. We had 700 and something shares. Thank you for the Daily Heart Me, Mindy. Good morning. Thank you for the populars, roses. Yep, that'll get us out there, hopefully. Let me get Little Butterfly to do the thing, too. Happy Friday! It's Friday!
Looking for the perfect outfit? You can search.
Y'all, God likes playing tricks on me. I lost weight, got rid of all of my clothes over a large, and then I'm gaining weight and have no clothes. I'm going to probably turn the volume, just tap. Her podcast won't go anywhere if we don't. Turn the volume down and just tap. Her podcast won't go anywhere if we don't go watch it for our own. Yes, we do need to be sure that we're going to the podcast, watching it, and then giving the feedback, review, and she has a place if you want to buy her a cup of coffee or a car. Hey, Storm, welcome back. I had to reset, so I'm trying to get all of the TikTok goals met again. I'm bringing Little Butterfly. That's my backup. If you guys need to go follow here, I'll say hi. If you need to place an order or anything, I'm always happy to. Can you see that trigger warning and everything? Right? Do you have a donation link in yours? Little Butterfly's out of coins. Can't even send a heart me. Come on, man. No popular, no nothing. Nope. Well, let's share. Repost. You can hold down right here and send to all of those people right there. No, I mean, do you have a donation link in your whatever for your podcast of any kind where people can contribute to the podcast or, quote, buy you a cup of coffee? Any kind of support link? Okay, now we're back up to 470. That's all I've got. Oh, the only links. Oh. Well, yeah, you definitely need to put one in there, honey. Hey, Becca, thank you all for doing the things. We're back up to 14 people. We're going to go ahead and finish the second episode. And be sure when we get done, if you have questions about where to find it, how to leave feedback, here's where you would share it.
Had a closer relationship to each other than they did with the other Griffin siblings.
Go back
according Bill, James, Gary Sutton, and James Dellinger were convicted of killing Connie, but before they stood trial for Tommy's death. Tommy and Connie were two of Viola and Ben Griffin's 10 children. 3 of the children died in childhood, leaving Bill, James, Tommy, Tammy, Connie, Stella, and Lucy in early 1992. Though they were 10 years apart in age, Tommy and Connie had a closer relationship to each other than they did with the other Griffin siblings, according to Carolyn Weaver, Gary's longtime friend. You heard from her in the last episode when she recounted what happened the day Gary was arrested. Tommy and Connie also lived in the same holler as James Dellinger on Bluff Heights Road in Sevierville. The trailer Tommy lived in was owned by Connie and her husband Boyd, who worked at a local textile mill. Tommy was paying them rent to stay in the trailer, according to testimony from the Sevier County trial. Connie was having a rough time in the years leading up to her death. Her doctor, Dr. Wayne Stewart, was called by James Dellinger's lawyer to testify during the Sevier County trial, and he testified that he treated Connie for a broken jaw following an assault in March of 1990. Dr. Stewart told the court that Connie said she'd been assaulted by a man named Jack Sutton, who was no relation to Gary, by the way. According to Connie's medical records, Jack had hit her in the face and dragged her to the ground, which injured her right knee. She was back in Dr. Stewart's office in February of 1991, and he treated her for TMJ that lingered following the assault and prescribed Xanax for panic attacks. 2 months after that, on April 19th, 1991, Connie's father died by suicide.
That suicide is just something that Connie followed up with Dr. Is this story in this podcast? We have advocacy and mental health triggers. Beware.
As well as some Xanax. By February of 1992, things were pretty rocky at the Branham household. Connie, still reeling from the death of her father, was also experiencing issues in her marriage. She'd recently lost her job, and she was hospitalized for a suicide attempt of her own on February 11th,
mental health advocacy triggers. Beware.
According to testimony from the psychiatrist who admitted her to Lakeshore Mental Health Institute in Knoxville,
she received
Connie
treatment.
was drinking heavily and then took several Cyanoquin pills.
That's all just for educational purposes.
Is a tricyclic antidepressant used to treat major depressive disorder and insomnia. That psychiatrist, Dr. Etup Miliekel, testified to a variety of stressors in Connie's life. She was separated from Boyd, according to hospital records, and she reported being depressed since her father's death and was upset about her brother's accident.
That was
More on that in a minute.
Advocacy and mental health
use
triggers.
Had increased, and she was smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day.
Yeah. Contact Back Porch Confessions
she was
and listen
also
to her
the mom
podcast
to a teenage
for
daughter,
mental
a
health.
preteen daughter, and an elementary-aged son. Parenting is difficult even when you have resources and aren't struggling with substance abuse.
It's a shame.
It really sounds like Connie was doing life on hard mode that winter.
Face.
Tommy, who was just 24 at the time of his death, walked with a limp on a prosthetic leg after a car accident required amputation of his right leg below the knee when he was 19 years old. I'm presuming this is the accident referenced in Connie's file from Lakeshore. One of Tommy's sisters, Stella Whited, testified in the Blount County trial that the doctors had worked hard to save his leg, but a skin graft didn't take, and amputation was the only option. The prosthetic limbs available in the late 80s and early 90s were not the sophisticated options we see today. According to Carolyn, Tommy's prosthetic leg was hard and hollow. The ankle joint in the faux foot didn't move, which is what caused the limp that so many people noticed about Tommy. Gary Sutton met Tommy Griffin about 3 years prior to Tommy's death, and they became close, like brothers. When Gary's wife left with the couple's daughter and went home to Georgia in 1991, Gary decided to outfit a room at his trailer in Kodak for Tommy. He bought a waterbed from his Uncle James Dellinger and set it up for his new best friend. Gary testified in his own defense during the Sevier County trial, and he told the jury that Tommy's older brothers could be particularly violent when they were drinking.
It's very important to talk about it.
According to Gary, one of Tommy's older brothers once beat Tommy to the point that his eyes were black and his lips were so swollen that they looked like they were inside out. Just a few months before Tommy and Connie were murdered, Gary had his own run-in with one of the older Griffin brothers. Around Christmas of 1991, Gary, James Dellinger, Tommy, and Tommy's older brother, Bill Griffin, were riding around and drinking beer while Gary waited on a mechanic to fix his Camaro. Gary testified that Bill Griffin was taking pills in addition to drinking and tried several times to pick a fight while they were riding around, but Gary
That's
ignored
not
him.
violence.
When James stopped to let Bill out of his house, Bill threw the first punch at Gary, and Gary fought back and punched Bill twice, which caused Bill to fall to the ground. Gary, James, and Tommy left Bill's house together, and Gary ended up getting charged for the assault, but the case was dismissed after the grand jury refused to indict him for the crime.
If you'll do
Tommy
your
wasn't
things,
without a few legal troubles himself.
that'll help.
In September of 1991, newspaper records show that Tommy and James Dellinger were arrested on the same day. Tommy for DUI and driving on a suspended license, and James for public intoxication. In November of 1991, James bailed Tommy out of the Jefferson County Jail after he was arrested for public intoxication. All in all, it seemed like a pretty regular occurrence for Tommy to have too much to drink and find himself in jail until he could make bond, which is the same thing that happened on February 21st, 1992. Amy King, who was 1 month shy of turning 8 when her Uncle Gary was arrested, remembers Gary's role in the family as the fun uncle. He would sled with them in the winter, and he stopped by their house nearly every day after work, even if he only had a spare few minutes. And when Gary and Tommy became friends, it was like gaining another uncle for Amy and her brother Justin. Yeah, he'd come over too. Same thing.
If you're just coming in, we're going over the podcast, Time of Death by Beth Braden, the Gary One Sutton. Share your thoughts on the events, it says.
Like, he was literally
There
a big
is
kid.
a trigger
He would
warning.
do the same thing, even though like he had his thumb leg, like he'd hop on that sled or whatever with us. Like I remember one in particular, not like my mom always had these spinny chairs. Like it was like the bar stool chairs that would spin. And so he got on there and he'd been drinking, but like he was extra funny then. But he'd sit on chair and I'd spin him, and like it'd fall off. We'd crack up, like, and I'd help him back up there and I'd do it again. But like, I mean, I remember him always telling us that, like, telling mom and dad and stuff, like, thank you for, like, pretty much inviting him in the family. He's like, this is what family is. Because, like, I didn't understand it then, but, like, now that I know more of what went on in his family, like, he didn't really have that just fun family time, because we'd have, cookouts or whatever, and, like, he was there. Like, he might not have been blood related, but it was our family. We loved him too. Amy also shared another memory with me, the time that Gary saved her life. I was always a big, like, scaredy cat. Like, I was always scared of the dark when I was little. Like, I'd always end up on as like, I was a scaredy cat dark. Like, so I didn't go and stay at people's house very much. I'd go out with him during the day, he'd take us over, we'd play with horses or play at his house. But I want to come back home, like, when it was that time. But I ended up going and spend the night with him. He had lived in a single wide trailer. So his wife at the time, like, she was actually pregnant with Sandra at the time. So they had forgot that I was there because that was the first time I'd ever stayed with them before. I was asleep on the living room couch. Like, it was like down the hall.
This is Time of Death podcast. Hang on, I got to order. Can you do a bigger image for the back, 12 wide, and just the name 5 wide? And I need 2 of each. Total 4. Someone's going to see Luke Combs. These are going to be the shirts. You either. Okay, we're going over the podcast that Beth Braden did on Gary Sutton. It's called Time of Death, a Smoky Mountains Mystery by Beth Braden. We're on the 2nd episode. You can go, should go, and hang on, Paula's doing it too. I had to reset. I'm on. You can get it on the podcast places. And hey, Stacy, if you listen to it, then you need to go and give a review. Be sure you give a review and share with this button and watch it, listen to it. Oh, Donna, I am so sorry. So it didn't work. The one good thing about it, though, is that what you missed, you can catch up on. I'll send the links. Okay. Have I got your phone number? You might well send me your number and I'll send you the links to it. So after I watch all of these, listen to them, I'm going to go in there and leave a review. Kylie Jenner sued by second housekeeper who claims that she slipped reality star a letter detailing claims of abuse. Okay, hon.
hallway was the bedrooms, and then you come up the hallway, the living room, and then it like circled around a bar that kind of like attached the wall, but kind of went out almost, and then the front door was kind of somewhat close to the couch, but the couch was kind of in the middle of the living room because it was small. You know, it was little tiny single wide. So we found out later that because he had those plug-in heaters, you know, he had one in the hallway to like keep it warm through there, and apparently that's what caught the fire or whatever. But they had woke up and it was all burned through the hallway. They had went out and he got her out through the window. Tessa, he remembered me. And I said, I remember when I woke up, the only thing I remember, and I remember I kept on crying, saying, oh, Uncle Gary's dishes is burned. That's all I remember. I kept on crying because all Uncle Gary's dishes were burned. Because when I woke up, it had already went down the hallway and burning that whole little island thingy, whatever, and all his dishes. So here it's just the spot in the living room. Pretty much the coffee table was right in front of me, right in front of the couch, and the door there.
Hey, Mark,
but it was
Mom,
protected me right there because it literally circled all around me. That he kicked in that door and he grabbed me and all I remember is the noise. I don't remember because he must have covered my head or something because I don't remember looking back or seeing it visually blow up. I just remember the noise. It was a really loud noise because as soon as he jerked me out of there and jumped off the porch, it fully engulfed, went up. Amy was 6 when Gary pulled her from the house fire. The fact that he would risk his life to save hers is one of many reasons she believes in his total innocence. I know it's really hard trying to tell someone else that does not know him, how big of a heart he's got. This is not something he'd do because obviously they don't know him like us.
Thank you, Daddy. Thank you all.
But literally, it's not a lot of people, that has picked up and started looking into it and helping us or, just being there for us. You can literally, you can talk to him a few times and literally just on the phone.
Just listen to him.
You can hear the caring. He has a huge heart. In the way he talks about homie, that's not a man that could have done that to his best friend. That would have been him going killing one of our family members. Because
is anybody in here not familiar with the case of Gary Sutton?
Gary Sutton is a country boy through and through. Prior to his arrest, he liked hunting, fishing, and horseback riding. He loved country music, especially artists like Travis Tritt, Mark Chestnut, and both Georges, Jones and Strait. He was separated from his wife, with whom he shared a very young daughter. He took that separation hard, Carolyn said, and he tended to spend more time in the local beer joints after the separation. Gary is 6 years younger than his older brother Jimmy, Amy and Justin's dad. Their parents, James and Ann, struggled to nurture them while growing up due to poverty and their own alleged struggles with substance abuse and mental health. When Gary and James were children, their mother left the boys behind with their father, remarried, and had 3 more children with a new husband. Gary's father also found a new partner, and she was allegedly physically abusive to both Gary and his brother Jimmy. Neuropsychologist Eric Ingham testified in the Blount County trial about what he learned of Gary's childhood during an evaluation in 1995 in the lead up to the 1996 Blount County trial. According to Dr. Ingham, Gary's parents attempted to bribe him regarding which parent he would live with. Quote, Gary was subject to a lot of mind games, a lot of head games, end quote, Ingham said. His school performance was subpar and worsened throughout the years until he dropped out of school in the 8th grade. Gary also struggled with alcoholism and had since childhood, according to Ingham. And Gary had self-medicated throughout his life to deal with the depressive episodes and other negative feelings. In the early 1990s, the R word was still considered a medical term, and that's the term that Dr. Ingham used in court. He said that Gary was borderline the R word, and that there was strong evidence of a learning disability because of his deficits in verbal processing, problem solving, and concentration. Carolyn told me recently that Gary tried to get his GED while in prison multiple times, but was never able to pass the exam. In 2002, 10 years after Gary was arrested for the homicides, the United States Supreme Court ruled in Atkins versus Virginia that sentencing someone with an intellectual disability to death was a violation of the Cruel and Unusual Punishment Clause of the 8th Amendment of the Constitution. I don't know yet if this was ever mentioned as part of Gary's federal habeas petition or in any of the state appeals, but I've got my eyes peeled for it as I keep reading. In 2021, Tennessee's legislature passed a law that shored up the definition of intellectual disability to match what's in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, more commonly known as the DSM.
Trigger warning.
This law allowed inmates who were sentenced to death prior to the bill's passage to make a new appeal based on the grounds of intellectual disability, even if their other appeals had been exhausted. In a few weeks, on May 26, 2026, Gary will actually appear at the Blount County Courthouse in front of Judge David Dugan. According to WATE, Knoxville's ABC affiliate, Judge Dugan ordered state experts to evaluate Gary for the intellectual disability claim in March 2026. At the hearing in May, the judge is expected to hear evidence and arguments about the claim and then make a ruling. I filed a request with the court to bring my equipment and make an audio recording of the hearing, but that request was denied as I was recording this episode. I will be allowed to take notes, and I've sent a note back to the judge's assistant for clarification on whether or not I can use my laptop to take notes, or if I'll be doing it the old-fashioned way by pen and paper.
Yes.
Gary isn't the first inmate to make an intellectual disability claim following the 2021 law passed in Tennessee. Another man, Purvis Payne, spent 33 years on death row for a double homicide and won his intellectual disability claim in late 2021, according to the Innocence Project. The move took him from death row, though he was ultimately ordered to serve 2 consecutive life sentences. Gary's case is more complicated because it deals with 2 different jurisdictions. In the Sevier County case, he got life in prison. In the Blount County case, he was sentenced to death. I don't know if Gary being resentenced to life in prison in Blount County based on his intellectual disability claim would be considered concurrent, meaning to run at the same time as his Sevier County sentence, or if the Blount County sentence would then become consecutive to the Sevier County sentence. So, the March 1992 arrest wasn't Gary's first time in trouble with the law that year. A headline in the January 7th, 1992 edition of the Sevierville Mountain Press declared, "Authorities seek drive-by shooter." On the night of January 2nd that year, somebody shot into 5 houses along Douglas Dam Road,
it's me.
and one of the residents told the paper that her husband had just gotten off the couch to go to the restroom when somebody used a Winchester 12-gauge shotgun and shot their picture window in their living room. 4 other homes and a pickup truck were damaged in the late-night chaos. On January 10th, 1992, the Mountain Press provided an update. Kodak man facing charges in Douglas drive-by shootings. The Kodak man? Well, it was Gary. He was arrested on January 8th at his job in Seymour. He was charged with 7 counts of reckless endangerment with a firearm.
Thank you, Judy.
Pay attention to the names of the officers that I'm about to tell you, because this won't be the last time you hear them. I'm going to read to you verbatim from what the news report said. Quote, Sheriff's Department detectives Mark Holt and Jeff McCarter named Sutton as a suspect in the case after witnesses reported seeing a white, full-size Dodge pickup truck at the scene of the shootings. Sutton drives a white, full-size Dodge pickup truck, authorities say. End quote. The report goes on to quote Sevier County Chief Deputy Mike Von Cannon as saying that investigators had information that Gary was drinking that night and that authorities had talked with 2 people who were in the vehicle with him but weren't charged. Gary's bond was set at $10,000, and he was due back in court on February 7th, 1992. The next headline about this incident announced, "Shooting complaints dismissed. 2 key witnesses cannot be located." The article, written by Jamie Satterfield, who is a well-known journalist here in East Tennessee, started like this, quote, "The state was forced Friday to dismiss charges against a Kodak man accused in a spree of drive-by shootings because 2 of his friends who are key witnesses can't be found." End quote. The prosecutor on the case, Charles Poole, told Judge Charles Sexton that the case couldn't proceed without the 2 witnesses to testify for the state, and he asked for another continuance. Remember the reference to Gary needing to be back in court on February 7th? According to this report, the February 7th hearing was continued to give the state 2 weeks to find the missing witnesses, but once again, they'd come up short. The judge was unwilling to grant the state more time, meaning the 7 counts of reckless endangerment with a firearm were thrown out. Jamie Satterfield's article about the case being dismissed was on the front page of the Saturday, February 22nd edition of the paper. I'm going to pause for a second and let you do the math on what this means in the timeline. Just to make sure we're all clear, the reckless endangerment case against Gary was dismissed by the judge on Friday, February 21st, 1992. The same day that the state said Gary and James shot and killed Tommy with a 12-gauge shotgun and left him on the bank of the Little River in Walland. Time of Death is a Find Out Media podcast written and recorded by me, Beth Braden. Audio editing is by Jamie Hoffman.
Episode 2.
The version of Poor
There's
Wayfaring
one more.
Stranger you hear in this episode.
Do you all want
was
to watch
written
that or
and
listen
performed
to
by Lee
that
McCurry.
too?
The sunrise photo and the cover art was taken by my friend and former newspaper coworker, Chris Cannon. Find him on
19
Instagram at
minutes.
Christopher Cannon Photography. Special thanks to Carolyn Weaver, Amy King, Michelle at the Sevier County Courthouse, Herb at the Sevier County Archives, the Sevier and Blount County Libraries, the Marable Daily Times, and the Sevierville Mountain Press. An extra special thanks to my husband, Chad, who serves as my de facto IT guy and ultimate hype man. Shout out to my friend and colleague, Kate Thomas, who encouraged me to keep going in the early days.
Okay.
And mad props to all the rest of my Luna Shark teammates. Mandy, Liz, David, Shannon, Jenny, Grace, and Sam, and all the rest of my family and friends, online or in real life, who are cheering me on. If you liked this podcast, keep listening, because there is so much more to share. And please leave me a 5-star rating and a good review so more people find the show. If you're interested in going
When
above
you do
and beyond,
listen to it,
consider
please
clicking the
leave
link in the
a
description to
rating.
buy me a coffee.
5-star.
I run on caffeine and cynicism, but I only managed to generate one of those things for free. You can follow Time of
There
Death
is a link
Podcast
where
on
you
Facebook,
can give her a
Instagram,
donation
Threads,
for
and
a cup of
TikTok,
coffee.
and on the web at timeofdeathpod.com.
She does do an amazing job.
Let's see what we find out next.
Marketing is hard. But I'll tell you a little secret. It doesn't have to be. Let me point something out. You're listening to a podcast right now, and it's great. You love the host. You seek it out and download it. You listen to it while driving, working out, cooking, even going to the bathroom.
And text or call
Podcasts are a
988
pretty
if
close
you
companion.
or anyone
And this is a
you
podcast
know
ad.
needs.
Did I get your attention? You can reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from
to
Libsyn
talk
Ads.
or are
Choose from
struggling
hundreds of
with
top
the
podcasts offering
suicidal
host
thoughts.
endorsements, or run a pre-produced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience and their favorite podcasts with Libsyn Ads. Go to libsynads.com. That's LIBSYN ads.com today.
The Nashville DA says death row inmates should not face execution due to intellectual disability. This was in the Tennessean March the 11th of 2022. There you go. There you go, Tina. Thank you.
Mother's Day has a way of sneaking up on you, but when it does,
And you can
1-800
find this
Flowers makes
at
it easy
you
to
can
send
find
mom
her
something
site at
beautiful, thoughtful, and worthy of everything she does. Right now, with double blooms from 1-800 Flowers, order 1 dozen roses and get another dozen for free. It's a bigger gesture with fresh, beautiful flowers arranged to make Mother's Day feel as special as she is. Make Mother's Day feel bigger with double blooms at 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast.
Your house or property works for you every single day. Don't let that hard work go when you sell it. That equity goes to a real estate agent. You want to go with the best. 46 years as a real estate brokerage. Edlin and Edlin, 1% commission rate. 1% commission rate. Go to Edlin.com. They have a sliding scale. You'll see how much of the equity you'll keep in your pocket. They're the best. You go with them. It's 1%. Edlin and Edlin, 599-2800 or Edlin.com.
Chapter 3. Finally Friday. Thanks for coming back to hear episode 3 of Time of Death podcast. My plan is to be back with episode 4 next Friday. If you haven't heard the first 2 episodes, be sure that you go back and catch up. And please share the podcast with a friend or two who loves deep dive true crime. Now, on to the show.
That right there, what she
Today
said.
is May 1st, 2026, and in 216 days, on December 3rd,
Hey,
the
Teresa.
state of Tennessee is going to execute Gary Wayne Sutton for the 1992 homicide of his best friend, Tommy Griffin, and Tommy's sister, Connie Branham. At this point, Gary has spent more time
I
in
can't
prison
get that
than he
to
did as a free
Keep
man.
the whole thing
March 5th,
visible.
2026 marked the 34th anniversary since his arrest. Because he was never granted bond before the trials, he's been in state custody since the day he was perp walked into the sheriff's office in Sevierville, Tennessee. It's kind of surreal to think about just how much time that is. He was on trial in Sevier County at the same time that the LA cops who beat Rodney King were on trial in federal court in Central California. He was incarcerated when O.J. Simpson fled from police in a white Bronco, when 9/11 happened, when Obama became the first Black American president, when COVID hit. All of it was experienced from prison via whatever news is available when you're on the inside, and by secondhand telling from his visitors and the small amount of people he's permitted to call. One of those people is Carolyn Weaver, who you heard from in episode 1. She was Gary's girlfriend, and she was with Gary the weekend of February 21st, 1992. I asked her recently how she and Gary met.
So I was working at the Sitco. I never paid no attention. I didn't even know that Gary had been in there before because I didn't pay no attention because we sold beer, we sold cigarettes, we were a convenience store. We also had a little deli. So I was running the register, fixing food, all that stuff. So one night, there was a car parked in front of my gas pumps. I kept watching for the car. Nobody claimed the car. The car was sitting there, and I was thinking, somebody's abandoned their car. I can't have them sitting in front of my gas pump. Well, we had this little dining room area that there was some men sitting over there talking, and I would holler over there, whose red car is that? Whose red car? Nobody ever answered me. Nobody, because they over there. So I was doing something, turned around. Gary came up to the counter and he put some money on the counter, and I looked at him and said, you need cigarettes. What do you want? He goes, no, I need to pay for my gas. I was like, is that your little red car sitting out there? Yeah, why? I was like, because I've hollered over there for the last 45 minutes. Whose car is that? It's blocking my pumps. I said, I've done called the tow truck. Oh, God, no, don't call the tow truck. He left his money. He ran out and he moved his car. I hadn't called the tow truck yet. A lot. So anyway, so he comes back in and he goes, are you mad at me? I was like, yeah, you've been blocking my gas pumps and I've been trying to get you.
There's more to the story about their first meeting that's actually kind of cute, and I'll share it another time. But this is where Carolyn and Gary's lives collided in the year prior to Tommy's murder. So do you remember how I left off last episode with the missing passengers from Gary's truck? And that meant the reckless endangerment charges against him for allegedly shooting at houses on Douglas Dam Road were dropped on February 21st, 1992. In one of the news reports from Gary's arrest for that, officers named one of Gary's half-brothers and Carolyn as his passengers. Another news report about that shooting noted that Carolyn and Gary's half-brother weren't charged because they, quote, did not know of his intentions that night. Carolyn told me that officers questioned her about the alleged shooting around the time they charged Gary for it, but she maintains Gary didn't shoot at anybody that night. Carolyn also said that she wasn't a missing witness and wasn't ducking service of a subpoena to court. She says she was working at the same Sitco where she met Gary, and she says that officers knew where to find her. So, with 7 criminal charges being dropped into a metaphorical shredder, the morning of Friday, February 21st, 1992, was going really well for Gary.
Y'all keep tapping and sharing,
Friday,
please.
And
Thank you for keeping that up there, Tina. That'll help.
Things were about to take a hard turn south. This is Time of Death Podcast. I'm Beth Braden, and you're going with me on a real-time investigation.
I'm going in the office, and I'm going to work on this order real quick while we listen, if that's all right with you guys. Yes. Can you just picture her going, I've been calling you for 45 minutes to move that car from my pump.
One of the puzzle pieces I've been trying to figure out for the last 6 weeks is what happened earlier in the day on February 21st. We'll get further in depth on the Friday timeline in a minute, but up until recently, all I've known is what was said publicly at trial. That Gary, his Uncle James, and Tommy arrived at a Maryville bar called Howie's Hideaway in the early afternoon of February 1992 and stayed there for several hours drinking and playing pool. The building where Howie's was is long gone, and the site is being graded to build another Walmart. It'll be Maryville's third one. Anyway, after reading 1,900 pages of transcript from the Sevier County trial, I finally found Gary's account of what happened prior to the trio arriving at Howie's Hideaway that afternoon. On Thursday, February 20th, Gary slept at his house in Kodak, and Tommy stayed at the trailer he was renting from his sister Connie on Bluff Heights Road. On Friday morning, the 21st, we know that Gary got up and went to court where his charges were dismissed.
I'm going to leave this
Gary
sitting here. I got to go to
left
the
the
bathroom
Sevierville
too.
and headed for Tommy's house
First.
around 10 to see if he'd eaten breakfast yet. At work, Gary had some carpet to finish installing in a mobile home, but he figured he'd go in around lunchtime to do it. Tommy told Gary he needed a shower before he could go, so Gary drove approximately 1/10 of a mile up the holler to his Uncle James Dellinger's house. On the way up to James's house, he passed the home of Connie Branham and a handful of other neighbors you'll hear about in a later episode. In February of 1992, James and Linda Dellinger's home was the last one in the holler before the road ran into a stand of trees, according to Gary's niece, Amy. Today, you can continue past the old Dellinger home place and the road loops back around. Once Tommy was out of the shower, he and James got into Gary's blue Chevy Camaro and they went for breakfast at a restaurant on Newport Highway. Then, Tommy apparently uttered the magic words, "Why don't we get a beer and you can go in tomorrow and finish laying that carpet?" So, according to Gary's testimony, the day drinking commenced. They stopped and purchased a 12-pack of beer, and each man cracked one open as they rode around. Which, hold up, this seems unfathomable to me in 2026. What do you mean they were just riding around and drinking beer? I mean, I know it was a different time. Riding around is a legit rural pastime, even today. I've done it myself. We also know that all three of them had been charged for stunts they'd pulled while drunk. So as foreign as it seems to us, this was just Friday for them. And please note, I'm not excusing that kind of bad behavior. I'm just telling you what went on that day. Their next stop was a bar called Pugsy's on Chapman Highway, which is US 441 that runs between downtown Knoxville and downtown Sevierville. At Pugsy's, the guys played a few rounds of pool and then took the back roads over to Blount County and onto US 321. They stopped at Howie's Hideaway, which was approximately 2.7 miles east of downtown Maryville. In Gary's telling, they only spent a couple hours there, but he did concede in his testimony that he was pretty intoxicated by the time they actually left Howie's. Testimony from the afternoon server and the evening server at the bar put Gary, James, and Tommy there from sometime in the early afternoon with no specified time until the neighborhood of 6 to 7 p.m. Gary says it was still light outside when they left Howie's. Sunset that night was at 5:26 p.m., but it wasn't completely dark for almost another hour. After leaving Howie's, Gary testified that he, Tommy, and James stopped in at a nearby Citgo gas station on 321 to purchase more beer. To be clear, this is not the Citgo where Gary and Carolyn met. Gary said that while he and James were in the store, Tommy stood outside to stretch his legs. While he was standing there, Gary says that a short woman with dark hair and glasses started chatting Tommy up and allegedly asked if Tommy knew where to score some drugs. And this is where the alleged drug involvement comes in. I still don't have my brain entirely around the drug angle, but one of the things I found in the thousands of pages of documents was a transcript of the voluntary statement that Gary provided at the Sevier County Sheriff's Office on February 25th, 1992, the day after Tommy's body was found. Sevier County Detective Dale Gorley and Blount County Detective James Widener took Gary's statement. Gary told the officers from the outset that he had called his Uncle James that morning, and the pair decided they needed to tell police about the last time they'd seen Tommy and what they knew of his life in order to help figure out what happened. Gary told the officers about the fight he'd had with Tommy's brother Bill back at Christmas 1991, but he also told them of another time that he'd been riding around with Tommy and his brother James Griffin, in which Gary heard James call Tommy, quote, a damn narc, meaning Tommy's own brother was accusing him of being a confidential drug informant for police. Then, Gary mentions a name that comes up a few times in the case file, Bobby Floyd, a local drug dealer who was arrested in January of 1992 in connection with a drug bust on Hall Road in Alcoa. Gary told police that Tommy had been moving drugs for Bobby Floyd by storing them in his prosthetic leg. Remember, Tommy's prosthetic leg was hollow. Carolyn told me one of the first nights that she hung out with Gary and Tommy, that Tommy took his leg off, poured it full of beer, and drank out of it. 10 of 10 is a party trick. But anyway, Tommy's leg was hollow, and Gary told police on February 25th, the day after Tommy's body was found, that Tommy had been transporting drugs for Bobby Floyd, who had just been arrested the prior month. and Tommy's own brother had recently called him a damn narc. Gary told police that he had tried to tell Tommy that he was going to get in trouble for carrying drugs in his leg, and that Bobby would just pretend he didn't know Tommy if Tommy ever got caught. According to Gary, Tommy said the cops would never think to look in his leg. So back to the sit-go on 321. Tommy left with the woman who was driving a car that Gary thought was a Ford Falcon, though he concedes he was very intoxicated.
It's time to take your 11:30
James
minutes.
had just bought more beer. They considered returning to Pudgy's to play some more pool, but ultimately decided to head back to the holler and get off the streets before they caught another DUI. I do need to address something I see in Gary's statement to police.
Yeah, that's a
He
good
says
thought,
that he and
Tracy,
James
if it was
and
ever
Tommy
tested.
were in James's pickup
Is
truck
it even
on
still
Friday evening.
available
And
anywhere?
he later amended his statement to say they were in his Camaro, and that he misspoke on February 25th when he told detectives they were driving a truck. Later, at trial, prosecutors would use this as evidence that Gary was lying to cover his tracks from the beginning. Gary says he was just mixed up because they'd swapped to the truck later that night. Also, the timeline is about to get very, very important from this point on. As I've been reading through all the records, I've been making a chronological timeline so I can see the events laid out. Keep in mind, we're not going to have exact to-the-second times. Nobody was carrying a cell phone in their pocket then, and clocks weren't synchronized from house to house. I'm going to put the timeline on the podcast website, timeofdeathpod.com, and I'll link it in the episode description. Anyway, back to Friday night, when Tommy, Gary, and James go their separate ways. Gary's brother Jimmy testified in the Sevier County trial that James and Gary arrived at his house on Ingle Hollow Road around 7:30 p.m. on Friday, February 21st. Jimmy's wife Diane, Gary's girlfriend Carolyn, and Diane's sister Shelley all testified to that same time frame for Gary and James's arrival at Jimmy's house. I'm not sure where that Sitco station on 321 was, but leaving from Howie's, it would have taken them at least 27 minutes to get to Ingle Hollow Road. At Jimmy's, Gary and James got out of the Camaro carrying beer, presumably the beer they'd just bought, and Gary asked Jimmy if he could leave the Camaro there and borrow Jimmy's small white Dodge Ram pickup because the Camaro was overheating. James and Gary didn't stay long at Jimmy's before James called home to tell his wife, Linda, that they'd be home shortly. Carolyn, who had been dropped off at Jimmy's earlier in the day, left with them to head back up to James's house on Bluff Heights Road. When James got done on the phone, he handed the phone to Diane, who continued talking to Linda. The women testified that they were still on the phone when Gary, James, and Carolyn arrived at the Dellinger home sometime between 7:30 and 8. Linda's daughter from a previous relationship lived in a trailer next door. She also testified to their arrival time. Finally together, Gary, Carolyn, Linda, James, and Linda's daughter tried to decide what they were going to have for dinner and what they were going to do for the rest of the night. About an hour later, at 9:02 p.m., Sevier County 911 received its first of 4 calls about a trailer fire on Bluff Heights Road. The first call came from the home of Alvin and Linda Henry, one of the neighbors on Bluff Heights. The second call came in at 9:03 from another neighbor, Devin Mays. After Linda Henry hung up with 911, she immediately called Connie Branham's trailer, where Connie's daughter Sandy answered the phone. Connie wasn't home. She was visiting her mom, Viola Griffin, down on White Skull Road. 2 of Connie's sisters and her aunt and uncle were there too, and they were all playing rummy. After the call from Linda Henry, one of Connie's daughters called down to Viola's house to tell them about the fire. Then one of Connie's sisters called 911 from Viola's house at 9:06 to report the fire again. At some point, while the first 3 phone calls were happening, Connie's other daughter, Jennifer, ran up the holler to James's house and began banging on the door to ask if they'd seen Tommy. Jennifer, who was 12 at the time of the fire, testified that she was afraid her uncle was inside. James told her that they'd left Tommy over in Maryville with a girl, that he wasn't home. Jennifer went back to her house and made the 4th and final call to 911 at 9:09 p.m. At 9:17, the first of 5 responding Sevierville fire trucks arrived at the scene, but Tommy's trailer was essentially gone. It was chaos on Bluff Heights that night. Connie and the other family members who were playing cards at Viola's arrived and posted up in the driveway across the street from Tommy's burned trailer. Connie's daughters had gotten their father out of bed, and they were outside too. A firefighter who was on the scene that night later testified that there were probably 20 to 30 people milling around at the scene. At the Dellinger house, Linda Dellinger had called over to Blount Memorial Hospital in Blount County to ask if Tommy was there. She testified to the following at trial, quote, Connie had called and asked us to do that. She was afraid since she didn't know the people that he was with that he would get in trouble or they may try to do something to him, so she asked us to call, end quote. Telephone records in the case file show that after they called the hospital, then they called Blount County Dispatch at 9:27 and then the Blount County Jail at 9:30. Jail was where they found Tommy, just like they'd found him on other wild nights. He'd been picked up for public intoxication a couple hours prior and was sobering up in the drunk tank. Based on trial testimony, Gary and James left Bluff Heights Road to begin the 37-minute trip to bail Tommy out of the Blount County Jail in downtown Maryville sometime between 9:45 and 10:45. I wish I had a narrower time frame, but this is the parameter I've got based on trial testimony, knowing what time Tommy was released from jail and how long the drive would have taken them. In Gary's February 25th, 1992 statement to police and in his 1993 trial testimony, he says the short, dark-haired girl was also waiting at the jail, presumably for Tommy, when he and James arrived. James paid Tommy's bail, and Tommy bonded out at 11:25 p.m. At trial, Gary said that when he and James got outside with Tommy, that he and the short, dark-haired woman, quote, started swapping a few words back and forward.
I'm going to move you away from that printer.
James and Gary tried to tell Tommy that his trailer had burned down while he was in jail, but he didn't believe them. Tommy ultimately opted to leave with the dark-haired woman in the same car from earlier. Gary said that he and James went back to Bluff Heights Road the same way they'd come. Linda Dellinger testified at trial that Gary and James got home right about midnight, and she remembered the time because she was on the phone with her niece and told her niece, "It's just now midnight, and I wasn't looking for them to be back yet." Meanwhile, on the other side of Bluff Mountain in Walland, Heritage High School student Jason McDonald was writing in his journal, quote, P.S. I just heard 2 or 3 gunshots down the hill. It is now 11:55 by my clock, p.m.
That's it.
Time of Death is a Find Out Media podcast written and recorded by me, Beth Braden. Audio editing is by Jamie Hoffman.
That is it.
The version of Poor Wayfaring Stranger you hear in this episode was written and performed by Lee McCurry. The sunrise photo and the cover art was taken by my friend and former newspaper coworker, Christy.
Look at this.
Find him on Instagram at Christopher
Hate
Cannon
this
Photography.
view.
Special thanks to Carolyn Weaver, Amy King, Michelle at the Sevier County Courthouse, Herb at the Sevier County Archives,
Well, guys,
the Sevier and Blount County Library.
it's almost 12, and I think I'm going to go ahead and call it since I've got this order.
Thanks to my husband, Chad.
Be sure you go.
And ultimate hype man. Shout out to my friend and colleague, Kate Thomas, who encouraged me to keep going in the early days.
Leave a review.
And mad props to all the rest of my Lunar
Share.
teammates. Mandy, Liz, David, Shannon, Jenny, Grace, and Sam, and all the rest of my family and friends, online or in real life, who are cheering me on. Let's see what we find out next.
At Louisville City FC,
That's
we don't
it.
just
That's all
chase
3
champions.
episodes. I love you too. Thank you, and I'll be here. I may come back on after a while. I'm not sure what's going on today. I may come back on after a while to go over some things. So be sure that your bell is set. Your notifications are set to all. I love you, Tabby. Get well soon. Thank you, Angie. Please, everyone, share to your platforms, your friends. And be sure to leave the review. Just go listen and leave the review. And it is www.timeofdeathpod.com. Thank you all for coming back. Thanks for staying with me. I appreciate each and every one of you. We need 3 new followers on this live where we had to reset. We made 65 cents.
Looking for the perfect outfit?
Hence why I have to work while I do this. Thank you all for everything you've done. Hey, Brittany, how are you? I was just fixing to close her down. I'm going to come in and I need 3 new followers. If you do reset, when you reset, always remember to go set the notifications to. You go up here, and that'll bring this up. You hit this, and when you do this, you have one more step. You have to go back in here and change that back, because each time it will reset that to the middle one. Thanks for the follow. There's Christina. Come on in. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Hello, friend. How have you been? Tina, did you mean to come up? Do you want to come up? Hey, Two Hats. At least we were reconstructing the timeline of the 1992 trailer fire on this one, I guess. It's what AI thinks it was. At least it finally realized that we were advocacy and mental health triggers here, huh? Maybe I'm not supposed to close. What do you mean? Hey, Jeep Girl, come on in. Posted on the Justice Warrior investigation Facebook page. Good. Close your live. Well, maybe I'm not. If y'all want to hang out, hang out. Let me put you back over here, though, where I can plug you up. You won't be able to hear as well. I'll put my microphone on, but I've got like 13%. 12%. And I've got the two tank tops, Tina, if you're still in here. We need to talk about the design. You definitely approved the design for this one, right? With the pink tatas. I think Tina was going to go live. Okay. Because Barbara can't. Right. And then the red one for Chicago. For Hobart. And then we just finished Carolyn's Purple. Justice for Gary Wayne. If anybody needs a t-shirt, we have a black and a purple so far, and this would go on the purple. This would also look good on a pink or what? Well, no, I don't know about white. Are you still in here, Tina? What was it you wanted on Chicago's red? Make sure I've got it. Neon, got that. Red. Just the words and a picture kind of like yours. This is printing Luke Combs. Don't tell him. Hey, Jazzy. Everybody ready to come up in a box then and hang out? Because I've got to do this. We just got about 15 minutes. See, I sent out invites.
I'm here.
Hello.
Right.
Speak loudly, please. I've got this going, and my hearing aids are really low, so I'm having trouble hearing. And it might be easier for you all too if I don't sit it right beside it and move it back over here. You were on the For You page? Really? Cool. Good thing I reset then, wasn't it? Because I was restricted for 10 minutes and restricted for the live. You aside and self-harm and mental health. TT's lagging sounds on me. Go out and come back in and see if that helps. Thank you so much, Judy. We still need one more new follower. We've made 199 diamonds in this live. If we get one more follower, I'll get 40% of my pay. Right now, we're just at 38% or 39%. Good morning, Jeep Girl. Thank you, Mo Beautiful. Thanks for the follow. Was that it? No, I still have 4. If you've already done it, it won't work. I'll have to have somebody new. I already did it on Little Butterfly too, and I don't have Eddie in here. Anybody out there not reset yet?
Yeah, I'll do it. Hold on.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, poo, but thank you for trying, Judy. Thank you.
I'll do it right now. Hold on.
Thank you for the heart, me, Mo Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Everybody helps. Everybody, thank you. Let's see. We've had 154 through the room this time. And I don't see any more statistics you all would want to know about. You might want to remind viewers to follow you for the next live. I believe I've done that. Be sure you set your notifications to all, because if it's in the middle one, you won't get notified.
All right, does that help?
TT thinks that it's important enough. It hasn't shown up yet. See in the chat, it doesn't say it. Last one's Judy followed.
All right, let me see.
I do not like Vaseline on my lips, but it's better than being dry.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the populars, the roses, the heart me's, and thank you. And the resetting. Maybe if you go out and come back in on your backup, we can get it. Jazzy, can you reset, or did you? Mo Beautiful, did you reset? I just need one more.
I reset again.
You can only do it once. Do that, and then that, and hit notifications back to all. See, I did it, but it still didn't count. So you can only do it once, and it needs somebody who hasn't reset already. Thicker than a Snicker, welcome back. I think I could have done that design a little better. Shit, sorry. Hurt myself. I'm sorry, I'm waking up from gallbladder surgery. You're fine. Be careful, you don't want to come up here and say things you won't remember. My daddy needs to have it. I heard a thank you for the follow, and we got it. Yay, thank you. I hope you're doing okay, and I hope everything gets better now. You didn't hear what I said, right? I'm fixing to send you my number. Oh, okay, let me get my thing so I won't forget about it. No, I don't see that back there. Thank you, Paula.
You're welcome. I don't know if it worked, but
It did. Thank you. Hey, Bear Bunny.
Let me do it on my backup.
Donna Marshall. I sent you my phone number in there, Donna Marshall. Why don't you just text me yours? In the TikTok, I sent you my number here. And then you use that and just text me. It'd be easiest. It wasn't a nice word. I'm so sorry. Let's do a reset. Let's take a deep breath in the nose and slowly out the mouth. And do that 2 or 3 or 4 times. Get a reset. Let's start this over. No, thank you, Donna. I'm sorry you've been stressed out trying to help me.
Barbara's not going to go live.
Huh?
Barbara's not going live.
Right. Is Tina?
I don't know.
Thank you for the first big gift, proud Nina.
Tina said
Thank you. April Dawn, thank you. I think I'm in. Hey girl, hey. You not working today? Or are you on lunch break? Hey, I says we're selling t-shirts designed for Gary Wayne Sutton, which is true. And follow to help reach the goal, which is true. You work at 3. Oh, I hate second shift. Oh, rib out of place.
All right, let me go out. I did the reset.
Okay.
Let me go out.
Thank you.
Come back in.
Thank you. Yeah, I got 5 now. 5 new followers, 170 people through the room because we had to reset. We made 85 cents, so we'll get 40% of that 85 cents. Yay, you got me to 40%. TikTok's a joke, right? Literally a joke. Thank you. Nina started following me. How long do you have to work from 3 to what? 11? Not horrible. It's a whole day, but not horrible. You've been coloring? Can you hear me, April? She probably doesn't even know she's up there, does she? If you like watching color, she's got the coolest coloring pencils too. Be sure you follow April Dawn. We've been buddies since I first came on here. I'm not going live just yet. Is Tina going live? Someone said Tina was going live. Hubby's home playing. Meet you and others. April Dawn. I have no clue. Okay. Somebody mentioned it. I thought maybe she was.
Yeah, she's live.
Oh, she already is?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I thought she was waiting till 12:30. That sound detected and little butterfly. Look at the back of my head. What's everybody going to do today? Do you have a big weekend planned? And what's for supper? What's the temperature? We got to freezing last night. Today we
It's only 50 here, if that.
62 and a high of 65, so that'll be the high. We're pretty much there.
59 and supposed to be 76.
Yeah.
I heard up there in the Pacific Northwest is supposed to be worse weather of some kind. I don't remember what it said, but I thought of you when I heard it.
Yeah, it's been really cold. But by this time, normally we're like getting 80s. Not this year.
Right. Same here.
I mean, by now we're really normally.
Pat for this, though. How the hell? Why Pat?
You're going to lay down for the day, Judy. You get you some rest. I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Thank you, Paula, for helping me reach that goal, and everybody for being here. Oh, you're going to beat me today by 4.
I think she's shutting down.
I don't know how to make my box bigger and make y'all smaller where
Listen to her.
but I can.
No, your box is bigger.
I know, but can you see the TV? Because I can't.
Oh,
Well, it doesn't really matter.
I'll let you guys go. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow.
You over there.
Me drop you here. Love y'all.